My name is Kathleen Leggett. A lot of my friends call me Kathy. There's been an issue within our community that we felt that we've not had an opportunity to engage with at the local level with our Board of Supervisors and with VDOT regarding this Braddock Road study. I know that there are other issues that popped up along the way in the discussion of this project where they want to straighten the S-curve and create a jug handle. This meeting was primarily to address the September 30th issues and talk about this study. I know there are other issues out there, and I'm sure Dave and Dan are interested in them, but primarily we have to address this issue first before we can tackle other ones. And so I want to welcome all of you. Civic engagement is critical to our democracy, and you coming out makes a statement not only to these gentlemen here that are volunteering their time, but to other people that we care and our voice matters, and that we do can be heard and we can make an impact, and that is my goal. So I can't thank everyone because there are way too many people that pulled this off, but I want to pass it over to Noah, who was the very first kind ear that would listen to a ranting, raving, crazy woman over this study. And Noah Bardash is the legislative aide to Delegate Dan Helmer, and I'm going to pass it over to him.
Thank you, Kathleen. I won't talk very long again. I'm Noah Bardash, and I work for Delegate Dan Helmer, and just want to now hand it over to Dan to introduce himself and speak a little bit about why we're here today.
Appreciate all of you, as Kathleen said, coming out and being part of the democratic process. So thank you very much. And Kathleen, thank you so much for calling and engaging and offering us this wonderful venue. I have done many town halls over the last few months, but almost all of them by Zoom. And so it is so nice to actually be out here and be able to chat with you. And for those who don't get a chance to ask a question, over the microphone or whatever, please feel free to come and engage myself and Noah and Senator Marsden afterwards. And also appreciate Senator Marsden. I called him up and let him know what we were doing here today, and he immediately said, I need to be there too, and it's just been such a great partner. I'm only going to speak for a very short period of time because mostly I'm here to hear what all of you have to say. I have been, aware of this issue in a very general sense, but when Kathleen approached us and said, hey, we have some real challenges here, we have been listening very closely to her and some other members of the community. And from all of you have heard so far that there are a few things. One is that there is a belief here that we do need to address the safety concerns here on Braddock Road on the S-curve. We need to address the traffic and traffic flow concerns over to Old Lee. But we need to make sure that as we do that, we're doing that in a way that engages the community as partners rather than as it seems to be a one-way dialogue from VDOT to you. And that you don't feel that your perspectives and your voices have been heard. And I think that's awful. And so I'm hoping that this is a first step in the right direction. I apologize, my mask is not cooperating with public speaking. So I'm hoping this is the first step in a continuing dialogue over the next months and years. Yeah, it's all right. So I'm hoping this is the beginning of a dialogue over the next months and years that has all of us working together to get towards a solution that works. Since over the last month, a few things that our office has proactively done about this is one, we attended the September meeting. Like many of you, we were deeply frustrated by the format of that meeting that seemed not to be about a multi-person dialogue with the community, but a one-way broadcast from VDOT. I was sufficiently upset with that I have now, I sit on the Transportation Committee. I called the head of the chair of the Transportation Committee, Delegate McQuinn, and we met with legislative staff to begin a process of engaging VDOT on how do they change the way in which they engage the community during a time where we need community engagement but also need to be safe. So that's been a first step. We have had a number of discussions with the Joint Transportation Accountability Commission, where I sit, to think about how do we make sure that during COVID, where there is less of the ways in which we've done it in the past available, how do we make sure our transportation dollars are spent well? And we are now doing this town hall as part of an ongoing dialogue. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you today, to answering your questions where I have answers. I have a feeling that many times we won't have the answer, and that will be homework for us to take away from here and begin to work on, so that we can make sure that over the next few years we land at a place that works for all of us, for our community. So with that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Senator Marsden.
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm Senator Dave Marsden. I've served in the legislature since 2006, first in the House of Delegates for 4 years, and then in the Senate since 2010 when I replaced Senator Cuccinelli, who became our Attorney General. We've since redistricted, and the district looks a little bit different, but this is the far western end of it here at the Virginia Run precinct. If you go in that direction down Braddock Road, that becomes Chap Peterson's district. And so my district runs from here through Centerville, basically down 29211 Braddock Road to the city of Fairfax, swinging down under it for parts of Fairfax Station, where Dan lives, Clifton, Burke Center, West Springfield, and then have Kings Park, jump over there, over to where the community college is, and then jump the Beltway and go all the way out to Lake Barcroft. It is the one of only 2 Senate districts in the Commonwealth that's in one jurisdiction. A fellow named Bill DeSteff has all one jurisdiction in Virginia Beach. I have all one jurisdiction here in Fairfax County, about 205,000 constituents. And but most everybody else has multiple counties, cities, towns, and what have you. So it in a sense it makes things a little bit easier dealing with one governmental entity. I wanted just to talk for a minute about just how transportation sets up in the Commonwealth. I'm chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee in the Virginia Senate, and I also serve as a member of the subcommittee on finance that deals with transportation. That being said, that sounds kind of powerful, but in reality, the Senate Transportation Committee is more about how many lights you can hang on your motorcycle than where we put a road. And the Finance Committee role in this whole thing is establishing, how transportation funding will be created, will be raised. We do that kind of work. And then years ago, we moved transportation decisions about roads and what have you to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. In other words, so that it didn't become a situation where it's, hey, it's my turn to get the new road, whether it's needed or not, didn't make a difference. It was in the hands of politicians, and that's not really, the way you want road construction and what have you decisions made in that regard. So the Commonwealth Transportation Board, a number of people appointed by the governor from different regions, and it's worked out very, very well here in the Commonwealth. So we are one of those states. There's just a handful that have state road system all under one centralized state agency. If you go north of here, Pennsylvania, different places like that, you will find different counties will have pieces of the transportation thing, and they all have to coordinate. But it has gotten more complicated in Virginia for 2 reasons. One, smart scale. I did the former delegate Jim LeMunyon had an idea about creating smart scale, and we did a sort of a pilot study and program here in Northern Virginia to determine, just in this planning district, that road use, road construction, transit decisions would be made basically on what was the most efficient thing, what moved the most traffic, what moved the most people, actually, and to guide those decisions. We expanded it to a statewide effort, and now smart scale is a big part of the decision, allowing science to be brought into the decision making and not just the politics, even of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So a lot of that drives that. It used to be Fairfax County had hardly any money involved in transportation. Now they're engaged in it, and they have their own projects and goals that they want to achieve, and they put money towards these things. And back in, I guess, 2013 or so, we added the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, which is a regional outfit. We gave specialized taxes to that for that money to be contributed to transportation projects throughout Northern Virginia, throughout the planning district. So it's a little more complicated than it used to be, but it's mostly out of the hands of direct politics, although there's certainly politics on the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. Certainly there are politics with Fairfax County. Certainly there are state-level politics, and we're all advocating for our constituents in terms of getting the best possible decisions made. The big one out here before, as many of you are familiar with, is the traffic circle at Pleasant Valley and Braddock. That was very, very controversial. The old joke back in the day was that Tim Hugo wanted to stand in front of the bulldozers, and David Ramadan wanted to drive it. They both had very different interests. David Ramadan represented Loudoun County. He wanted his folks to be able to improve their commute. And the interests of this community was to slow that down because it made local traffic more difficult and what have you. And everyone's hopes were is that the Route 50 work would take a lot of the South Riding folks and put them on Route 50 away from residential areas. And I guess that hasn't worked quite as well as we've hoped. So we're now back into a Braddock Road project that we have to get right and find out what the best solution to this is, if there's a solution needed at all. And the S-curve does have its problems, especially in winter, in terms of cars sliding off the road, blocking traffic. It is the last vestige, really, of a county that's no longer particularly rural. I grew up here, born and raised here in Northern Virginia, and grew up in Annandale, and grew up in the original Woodburn Elementary School. So I'm 72 years old. I've seen a lot of changes and a lot of decisions made on highways and roads. And the one thing I have learned in being in the Senate, and I was on the Transportation Committee when I was in the House, is that you have to get these decisions right. First off, you have to determine whether it's required, whether it's necessary, and then you have to determine the best solution. And that's what we're here to do. And at some point in time here, we need a venue like this for VDOT to come out and be able to interact with you in this kind of a live format. That's something that I think I can work with Dan to make sure that happens. Because they're not used to video Zoom calls and how to do things, and it's been difficult on all of us. But what we need is a live presentation and live questions and answers, so that you can make sure that your government is doing right by the people who live here in your community. With that, I will turn it back over to Delegate Helmer's aide, and certainly afterwards today I'll stick around for anybody who has any questions or wants to talk about anything else that is on your minds. But thank you very much for having us here today.
Thank you, Senator Marsden. Now we are going to give you all a chance. I know a number of you have questions or comments to share, and so I'm going to move the mic forward. And then if you have a question or you would like to speak, if you could line up by the speaker over there, please maintain at least 6 feet of distance at a minimum, and then we will go ahead and get started with question and answers from you all. But if you are interested and would like something to share again, please head over to the speaker over there.
Hi, I'm Christopher Nelson. I live in Sully Station, have lived there for 30 years. Those of you who know me may know me as a trustee of the association and also as the association's treasurer. But my comments here today are my personal thoughts. The association has already filed during the public comment period its objections to this project the way it's currently expected to be carried out. Our concern is we have a lot of cut-through traffic on Sully Station Drive, which is a road that connects Braddock Road and Westfields Boulevard. A lot of the people coming from Loudoun County are headed either into the Westfields Business Park or points east or north of that. So Sully Station Drive is a convenient cut-through for them. this causes poor quality in our neighborhood because in the mornings it can be difficult to get out on the Sully Station Drive. Evenings you've got fast commuter traffic cutting through our neighborhood. So we would like this project to proceed in a way that doesn't impact Sully Station Drive. The original plan for the county had this road going into the Westfield Business Park. And I believe that's the right way to do this project. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marlena Carr. Born and raised in Virginia Run, just down the road. Went to school over in Westfield, and now living in Falls Church. But as this is where I was raised, I have a really vested interest in particular, how the natural resources are managed in our county. And obviously, roads and road construction are a huge part of that. And I guess I'd like if you all could relay this back to VDOT, but I'd like to know more about what they're going to do both in construction and how they plan to manage the inevitable increase in stormwater runoff so that it has the least impact to the wetlands and streams near this construction project, because there's a wealth of trails. I mean, when I went to school at Westfield, I ran cross country. We'd run right along the stream. And there's a lot of people that love hunting and fishing around here. And I just hate for this project and other increases in construction, particularly around transportation, to not take that into consideration. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Petrine, and I live in Reston, Virginia. I'm making a statement for my wife, Tammy Petrine, who cannot be here today, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. What is the function of Fairfax County government? From Google, the Fairfax Board of Supervisors governs the county based on priorities that reflect the community. Currently in Fairfax County, we are experiencing government based on priorities of only one segment of the community, the developers. Certain members of the Board of Supervisors have forgotten their oaths and campaign pledges from 1 year ago to represent and serve the people, all of us. Sadly, the current Fairfax method of operation resembles the highly publicized, anti-democratic, corrupt annex of our federal government. Thankfully, citizens have met here today to counter and protest, just as we are rising up across the land to put an end to the current era of domestic terrorism. How ironic is the fact that only the overt opposition so far from the Fairfax Board of Supervisors comes from the only Republican on it. Indeed, irony rules our days, but not for long. We gather here today without prejudice with the members of both parties. But most proudly today, we are joined by the members of our state of Virginia elected officials. Recently elected Kathy Smith of this very Sully district, where we are now standing, dominates the rogue contingent of leaders of the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. She is the powerful leader of the Board of Supervisors Land Use Committee, literally the proverbial fox in the henhouse. Jeff McKay is chair, and others who blindly vote with her are also culpable. Only publicizing to the majority of tax-paying citizen residents and the press will stop the county's current system of wholesale abdication to developers and their desire to urbanize the county at the expense of our environment and our residents' welfare and wishes. We gather here as our first public salvo to stop this abuse. As evidence of this egregious and escalating behavior, we can only cite our presence here today in spite of COVID dangers, but also the following: adherence to the Gartner policy, 84 pages of direction to staff and others that clearly advantage development by getting to yes applications decisions as quickly as possible. The wildly unethical developer created silent supporters document available on Fairfax County's official website, and the clear showing by the county's own venerated planning commission by informed veteran members who have abstained or directly rejected several of the recent applications that defy both moral and common sense. The Dangerous Boulevard and Stonebrook cases involve locating residential housing in close proximity to Dulles Airport's forbidden zone, the infamous Land Unit J. These cases have aggrieved former county leaders who forbade housing in the dangerous and noisy Dulles proximate area for common sense reasons for over 40 years. Those reasons have not changed, but have become more pronounced. In 2019, MWA updated its obsolete 25-year-old guidance on Dulles noise contour lines, which would have precluded Land Unit J housing. Instead, Kathy Smith, the county controller of land use issues, refused to formally adopt the new guidelines. Now we are experiencing yet another insult to the concept of transparency and decency. This very jug handle Braddock Road debacle located adjacent to our meeting site. Public inclusion in the process has been nil. Direct constituent communication with Kathy Smith, which pointed out its huge environmental and engineering flaws, is laughed at and warnings dismissed. VDOT has accepted this project without public notice and at great expense. The environmental effects are enormous and endanger the drinking water supply for the entire south portion of Fairfax County, the Occoquan Reservoir. My list could go on and on. Others will and have shared their thoughts. Please note that citizens countywide are distraught at unhealthy, undemocratic Fairfax board decisions that threaten or protect our environment. These will not be tolerated. We are rising up in unison to demonstrate our opposition to this project and all others that flaunt the will of the people as we strive to fight climate change and protect our healthy, livable, sustainable existing neighborhoods, be they rural or suburban. It is not a Sully problem of a few disgruntled Smith constituents. It is a county-wide declaration. Thank you.
My name is Weldon Regan, local resident here. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, I think you heard my name. Anyway, I have to say that I think the senator put it most pointedly in that the improvements to 50 have not made a difference in terms of Braddock Road. Rather, we're still experiencing an offloading of funneling from 50 to here. Improving that section is only going to funnel more traffic from 50. I'm not sure why VDOT is so determined that this is going to go down. And that's really all I have to say, but thank you for your observation.
My name is Kay Kimball, and I live on Braddock Road. And respectfully to the safety issue on the S-curve, I agree that that needs to be addressed. My concern is that Loudoun County wants to expand Braddock Road to 4 lanes all the way down to Route 28. We already have speeding issues just with 2 lanes. We have significant pedestrian traffic in that section between Stone Road and right down here by the country club. And I have concerns about that being impacted. Also, the trails that we have, those are going to go away. And I'm also concerned about the impact on real estate value if they start tearing up Braddock Road and expanding it to 4 lanes. Thank you.
My name's Grant Cates. I'm a resident here in the Estates. And I want to address a couple of items. One is the safety issues on the S-curve. I drive the S-curve quite often, and what I see is drivers crossing over the yellow line. I don't know if anybody else has seen that, but I see a few heads nodding out there. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. One is obviously it's a tight bend radius. It's difficult for drivers. But there are a couple outcroppings of rocks that extend right up to the white line that I think drivers are afraid of because I see them kind of veer over when they come around that. So I think a quick project to take out some of those outcroppings, extend that road just a little bit, would help out tremendously. And then another suggestion is maybe some rumble reflectors on the white lines and in the center line. So when people are crossing over, they hear that noise. I think that'd be super helpful. And we wouldn't have to wait 6 to 8 years for that safety enhancement. I think we could also do some widening of that road without costing $20 million or whatever it is. So I think those issues can be addressed in the near time, and I would suggest that they could be used with emergency funding, given that we've had, over 150 accidents there or something. So obviously it's a dangerous situation. All right, second point I wanted to make suggestion was, it seems to me that there's a fairly simple solution, and that is extending at the apex of the S curve. Just go straight at that point into Rock Hill Park, right? And then put a traffic circle there, like we did back up the road, and extend from where they want to put the jug handle. Instead of putting the jug handle there, just veer the road into Rock Hill Park and have the two roads made up there. So that will smooth the flow of traffic into the Westfield area and get them off of Braddock, because a lot of those traffic are going out to the high school. Right, again, so that new road that I'm proposing, it's 0.2 of a mile from the apex to the center of Rock Hill Park. It's 0.2 of a mile from down there to the center. That's less than half a mile of new road. Half a mile of new road should come in about $3-4 million in this type of terrain, according to all the research that I've done. So I think that's a good solution. There's already a road halfway through the park, and it could be paved, and it would actually enhance the park, because now we could have paved roads into the park. It would reduce the congestion along Old Lee Road. So if you want to go to the park in the morning, the evening, you're going to fight into a traffic jam. But it'll completely eliminate that. So it gets the construction of the jug handle away from the Cub Run, where we don't want it to be. Gets it off this property, obviously, and utilizes the resources that we have that, to me, you're just staring us straight in the face as the obvious solution. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Hart. I live in Virginia Run. I have a couple points. I'm most concerned about the environmental impact of the proposed changes here. I was opposed to the roundabout several years ago. There were 2 threatened species of plants in the northeast quadrant. One was called the flat stem spike rush. The other was the purple milkweed. They shifted the circle a few feet to the southwest, supposedly to avoid those plants. But if you've been through there, everything seems to have been graded over, and I don't know that any plants could have survived. What we were assured by the Board of Supervisors at the time was that we will carefully monitor the situation. I've never seen anyone out there monitoring anything. We're just downhill from the largest stand in Virginia of a globally rare oak hickory forest on diabase soil. VDOT admitted on the website that they had not done any environmental work and no environmental study prior to selecting the jug handle option, which they ultimately recommended and which Supervisor Smith supports. The jug handle option was the worst of the batch if you look at it in terms of the amount of disturbance in the Cub Run stream just behind the Legate's backyard here. The Cub Run stream is one of the few places in Northern Virginia with documented occurrences of the state-threatened wood turtle. And again, VDOT did this backwards. They've done no environmental study. They pick an option, and then Supervisor Smith says, well, we'll look at mitigating the environmental impacts later. The environmental criteria should have been up front, part of the equation, and that should have ruled out something like this with massive disturbance in a floodplain, uphill and upstream from the Occoquan in the RC district. What I think we need help on today is a couple things, but first of all, It is my understanding that the Commonwealth Transportation Board, the CTB, still has to make a decision for the smart scale projects. There are many projects that will be prioritized by them, and that one of the criteria for selecting and approving a smart scale project is that there is stakeholder buy-in. And I think other than Kathy Smith, I can't think of anybody that has bought into this, at least on the Fairfax side of the line. And I think we need to be able to demonstrate to the CTB, if they're trying to prioritize these projects, that that was skipped over. Not only is this a bad project, it does not have stakeholder buy-in. And the people in the neighborhood, the people most affected by this, the people most concerned about the increased commutes from Loudoun County, that this will open up and open the road up to trucks, I assume, with the S-curve being straightened out. Not only that, it'll be an alternate truck route to 50 to connect up to South Riding. We need help as to how best to communicate to the CTB, the decision makers on this, I assume, on whether the smart scale funding will be approved, how to communicate to them. Is that emails and letters? Who do they go to? Is there a public hearing process? Can we sign up for that? What do we need to do to make our voices heard? How can that be made more effective? As a couple folks have talked already, the meeting we had the other night, the virtual meeting was a fiasco. Supervisor Smith and VDOT did all the talking, and it was a one-way mirror kind of thing. We were not even permitted to see the comments from the rest of the audience. Only VDOT could see the comments, and all of the questions were filtered and edited by them. Many of us had submitted questions in writing in advance. None of our questions were asked, or if they were dumbed down in such a way as to say what a wonderful project this was and how all the citizens had been embraced. That is another procedural issue here. They should be doing the environmental studies first, and if they're going to have a public meeting, it needs to be transparent and accountable, where we can see what everybody else is saying. The last thing I would say, and the gentleman before me addressed this to some extent, these are not new issues. The solution, or our solution to mitigating the impacts from Loudoun County traffic through Fairfax County down to the new mixing bowl at 66 and 28 has been a long-standing, long-building problem. About 20 years ago, there was a gentleman named Dick Frank. Some of you may remember Dick. Dick was the chairman. He was a WFCCA land use chair for a while. He was on the Transportation Advisory Committee locally. Dick came up with a solution. We call it the Dick Frank alignment, and that's what's in the adopted comprehensive plan. And it took Braddock Road somewhat north from about the S-curve over to where Old Lee Road turns near Westfield High School, but more northeast than southeast. There's also text in the comprehensive plan emphasizing the importance of making sure that the two-lane segment of Braddock Road is not the main road, that it not be the commuter route to connect South Riding and the 30,000 more houses that are yet to come or whatever, and I-66-28, which is what the Loudoun commuters want to do. Water will find its own level, and if that's the fastest way to go, we start with the roundabout, we take out the S-curve, we take out this slow intersection, open it up to trucks. It brings even more traffic to these neighborhoods that don't have stoplights and can't get out, or the folks in Virginia Run who have to wait at the circle to get let in. So the comprehensive plan solution takes the traffic north into Westfields. It would have a T intersection with Braddock Road and leave Braddock Road as more subordinate. It's a two-lane road through neighborhoods that was never designed to be a commuter highway like Route 50. There may not be enough money to do that or to do it right away, but the solution is not to upgrade the S-curve and Old Lee Road first without an environmental study impacting a globally rare forest in a vicinity where there are endangered species, and we know that there's occurrence of these turtles in the stream downhill, and they haven't even looked at that. So if we can organize and send letters and speakers and emails, whatever, to whatever we need to do, whoever it is at the CTB, we need help in facilitating that. I personally don't know who that is or when, and it's been a little vague as to who exactly's fingerprints are going to be on this decision. But we need to be involved in that, and I hope that we can be with the help of Delegate Helmer and Senator Marsden. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Chulik. I'm with the Western Fairfax County Citizens Association. I live in Virginia Chase. It's about 3 blocks beyond the giant food down there. It is located at another curve in the road, which I will discuss in a minute. First of all, I'm interested to know, we spent a lot of money on Route 50 and the Route 50 expansion. And I'm curious to know why isn't it having the desired effect on traffic? I'm curious about that. And also, I'd like to know if there has been an assessment of how the 66 Route 28 expansion is going to improve traffic flow and how it will impact the planned expansion of Braddock Road. We've been talking about the pressure from the Loudoun County and how the traffic wants to go. They want to facilitate more traffic flow on Route 28. On Braddock Road, because I live very close to Braddock Road. I'm concerned about that, and there's also another curve there. I've lived in Virginia Chase for 27 years. In that amount of time, there have been at least three or more car accidents that have come very close to the houses. 2 of them have gone through the fences that outline the backyards of those houses. They've come very close to those houses. We've contacted Supervisor Smith and we've talked to VDOT. We've asked them about the possibility of putting in guardrails, rumble strips, improving that intersection, and so that's another concern for us in terms of safety. But of course, if we're going to widen this road, that's going to bring more traffic, and of course that increases our concern on that particular intersection. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Turpak-Malm, and thank you so much for coming today and coming out and listening to us. I think that's the biggest concern I have is VDOT is taking comments and stuff, but they're not actually listening to the comments. They have set answers to every question we raise, and they say their metrics show that this alignment here, right here going through the Legate's backyard, is the best alignment to fix the Braddock Road issue. But the metrics are obscured. We have no idea what they are. Like, how could this be a better alignment, putting a stoplight there, whereas just putting in simple left turn lanes on both Old Lee Road and Braddock Road, and you could still put in a stoplight? How could that possibly be a better solution when you're taking private property for someone? When it comes to the parkland, they said, oh, we don't want to infringe on the park. Well, I've lived in Centerville for 39 years, and that used to be called Quinn Farm. It wasn't parkland, and it's not pristine parkland. If you come here in the springtime, it's covered with Bradford pears. Right now, there is a dog park there and soccer fields. We're not talking about pristine parkland that needs to be saved. It is land that you could put through the master plan that Jim was talking about. You can build through the park. And they're saying, oh, no, we don't want to touch the parkland. I actually work for the Park Authority, and I'm a big environmentalist. That's not land that needs saving. This stream valley does need saving. The master plan, when it calls for Braddock Road to be realigned this way, it would actually remove Old Lee Road from, it's entirely about half a mile of it is in the floodplain. It would actually take out that half mile, would be reverted to parkland when this new alignment would go through. And VDOT is saying, well, you know what? That is still on the table. That is still in the master plan. But if they spend $16 million, which is their current estimate, to do this project, they're never going to do the master plan. And that's my concern. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
My name's Carol Hahn. I won't repeat some of the things I wrote down because Jim Hart and Chris Turpak-Malm and Steve Chulik, they've already mentioned it. But I think part of the problem, and maybe you've heard this, our frustration as citizens, and I've been involved forever, it seems like, our frustration is that on this project, on other projects, on other land use issues going on in the Centerville, Sully area, we're not being listened to as citizens. We simply aren't. COVID has really become our supervisor's best friend because we haven't had to have face-to-face meetings. We can do them via Zoom, and you've heard from others some of the problems with that. And so we're not getting what we need as citizens to make good decisions, whether they're good for us or not. But our decision makers are going ahead and making the decisions that they think is in the best interest, in some cases in the developer's best interest. They're just not listening to us. And that's what is so frustrating, and this is a perfect example of that. There's multiple issues. I actually had to drive for the first time in years, come up here the other day just to drive this because it had been years since I'd been down the S-curve. But I can tell you that if we start talking about the other project similar to this, which is the Route 28 bypass, that impacts my house as much as this impacts the Legate's house. So it's not just this. 28 bypass on the other end of Centerville will have just as many issues. And again, citizens have not been given that opportunity to talk about it. Anyway, and I know Senator Marsden kind of mentioned the longer you're here, you see changes happen. And maybe years ago somebody thought, oh, someday we'll widen Braddock Road. Well, you know what? Some things are meant to be the way they are. Some roads should not be widened. Braddock Road should not be a 4-lane thoroughfare just to get from Loudoun County to 28. Anyway, it's never been planned. I know that a lot of us here actually worked with Dick Frank on the comprehensive plan. We knew they were going to be building tens of thousands of units in Loudoun County. We knew that we didn't want them coming through on Braddock Road. That's why the comprehensive plan is the way it is, was to get people out of the residential area of Centerville. And that comprehensive plan is supposed to, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, is supposed to be a guide to how land use is conducted. And it's not here, not in the other end of Centerville, and in other areas. The comprehensive plan is a valuable document, and our Board of Supervisors is just ignoring it. And that's very unfortunate. So finally, the board should be listening to us. We are the citizens. We are paying their salaries. But what I appreciate today is that maybe the two of you can take back to your General Assembly colleagues that even though, we're told time and time again, land use is a local issue, there are periods of time where we as citizens need to rely on you going back to those that you work with, and maybe seeing how you can help us citizens so that our voices are heard. Thank you.
My name is Ann Bennett, and I handle land use issues for the Great Falls group of Sierra Club. We have about 4,000 members in Fairfax, Loudoun, and Prince William counties. Like you, Senator, thank you both for being here. But yeah, nice to see you. I grew up in the Mason District, and this was the western frontier, and this is where I came, for recreation, basically. And obviously it's very different, but I spent a lot of time in the Sully district growing up. So I thought I would just start by reading a part of a letter that we got in response to a member who had heard about this event today. It seems inconceivable that with all of the damage underway within and against the EPA and the environment, and that we in Fairfax County are requesting our county government officials to adequately review the environmental impact of this road project. We have so many different options to alleviate the problems that this project is designed to remedy, and yet these and other options are not part of the decision process. I am very discouraged by the Board of Supervisors and Planning Board's record over the past year and encourage them to take a proactive stance in protecting Fairfax County families' drinking water and safeguarding our watersheds and the microenvironments that make our county such a lovely place to live. Please stop the progress of this project and adopt a practice of considering options that are less detrimental to our community. You know, just like it was alluded to before, you know, some of us are here because there's just so much increased pressure on resource protection areas, and this is just the latest project. There's a reason these houses were not built down there, okay? There's a reason the county did not allow that to happen, and now I don't understand why we think it's okay to build a road there. You know, environmental concerns are just too often the last priority after all the other considerations are taken up. As we know, our waterways, stream valleys are increasingly under pressure from flooding, deterioration of the water quality, and the effects of climate change. And I don't think more concrete and asphalt are the answer to those challenges. You know, finally, and thank you, we're seeing some movement in Richmond on climate issues. So that's real progress, and hopefully Fairfax County will follow suit under the CCAP process. But we really need to make VDOT part of the solution as well. They need to be making good decisions about, you know, to protect our waterways too. And again, it can't be an afterthought. And I hope that both of you can really start to work on improving the process and finally the outcomes of VDOT's decision making in just what is the latest example here. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is John Litzenberg. I was your planning commissioner for 8 years, and for 4 years before that I was your housing commissioner. So I know this area really well. I thought I'd give you a little history lesson on this S-curve out here. First of all, it was built by George Washington. He laid it out when he was a major in the Virginia militia, and he was mapping out the Braddock Road so General Braddock of the British Army could go west on there to go attack the French in 1754. Fast forward to 1861, then Major William Tecumseh Sherman, who was on the Union side in the First Battle of Bull Run, he took his Ohio regiment right through this intersection where the roundabout is, down the S-curve in his retreat back to Washington. So it has some significant historical value. Fast forward to 1989. The Loudoun Board of Supervisors rezoned farmland into residential for 12,000 units. Then Centerville was in the Springfield district. Then Supervisor Elaine McConnell sent a letter to the Loudoun Board saying, don't use Braddock Road as an arterial because they don't want us to take all that traffic and dump it into our quiet subdivisions in western Centerville. The Loudoun Board chose to ignore that. Fairfax then went and they put in reserved some land. It was between the quarry and the battlefield, so they could extend the Loudoun County Parkway up there all the way over to 66. Unfortunately, several of the landowners there made some small political contributions to the Loudoun Board, and the Loudoun Board took it off there. That was about 20 years ago. So now we are here in 2020. They ignored the advice of Supervisor McConnell. They bought off the landowners up there. They want us to handle the traffic problems. To me, the answer is no, we're not going to do that. There are other issues. When I was on the Planning Commission, we spent 2 years mapping out an improvement of the sewer line that goes right down through the Cub Run Valley here. We were very concerned about the environmental impacts. Like Jim Hart said, we analyzed it. We took care of the wood turtles, took care of the bluebells, some other endangered plant species. They fixed it the right way, and all those endangered species survive. Now they want to come through with a bulldozer and not only ignore all that work, they want to erase all the hard work the Plan Commission did to save those species. So what I'm going to ask Delegate Helmer and Senator Marsden to do is they sit there in Richmond, cut off the funding for this. They can't do it without funding from Richmond. Cut it off until they get it right, and then we can go forward. Thank you.
My name is Beecher Brown. I live adjacent to Braddock Road. I can see Braddock Road. It's probably about 100 yards away from my house. And I just kind of, as you all know, this is obviously unbalanced as to who it benefits. The folks of the Sully neighborhood, the folks that live along Braddock Road, we see no benefit from what's happening here. This is only benefiting the folks in Loudoun County. And I want to mention something that, I haven't heard this idea mentioned yet. I've seen this in the state of Maryland along 210, a highway called 210, where 210 spans multiple counties in Maryland, and it's notoriously bad for traffic during rush hour. And after, let's say, 2 decades or so, it's always been bad, After 20 years or so, they finally have started to build a real solution out there, which involves getting rid of the 4-way intersections. They're building overpasses there, and they haven't finished the project yet, but it's greatly improved traffic already. They've replaced the 4-way intersections where there are lights with overpasses at least 3 intersections so far, and they're working on more. I don't know why that hasn't been mentioned yet. Maybe it's a budget issue, but listening to the neighbors here, this has been an issue for 10, 20, 30 years so far. And I just have to imagine, over the course of that amount of time, you could have come up with the funds to put forth a real solution, which in my opinion is keeping everyone on that major highway, which is Route 50. It's a major highway. It's meant to take folks across county. It's meant to take folks to Route 66. It's meant to take folks to Route 28. I think that's the real solution here, but the problem is that there's the 4-way intersections. So traffic doesn't flow there as good as it would if we could get rid of the 4-way intersections and replace them with overpasses. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Sheila Dunheimer, and I'm president of the Hunters Valley Association, which is on the eastern side, most side of Sully, but I am also a participant of the Sully District Citizen Association. And so I wanted to be here in support of the concerns that are here, as we similarly had support when we were fighting last couple of years, the OR benchmark assisted living that they were trying to place on an inappropriate piece of land that would have environmentally affected Angelica Run and Difficult Run watershed. And so I just wanted to highlight again and reinforce that the previous mentions of the way the system seemed to be turned around these days, and instead of looking at things environmentally first, they seem to be put to the back end of everything. And as we were looking there at a situation where it would have been a facility with 90 people, residents, and an estimated 315,000 contaminants of emerging concern byproducts into the watershed on an annual basis, we discovered that the Public Drinking Water Act and any groundwater protection is only for public sources of drinking water. So in a lot of the areas of our county, we have private wells, and those folks are dependent on safe, clean water that has no protection right now. And I sat across from our Director of Environmental Health, Peter Sheehan, concerned for my homeowners that had private wells and could be affected by such actions, and was told, well, they bought where they bought. And so it's very alarming in general, and I know we talked to Delegate Mark Keem as well. It's on the same committees as you are, Delegate Helmer, as far as the agriculture and the Chesapeake Bay. And so I would hope that that is another area that could be looked at, and again, just reinforcing, our citizens' concern about the environment, and that we would like it placed forefront instead of at the end of any decision making. Thank you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for being here.
thank everybody for being here. My name is Jahan Arslan, and I agree with so many of the things that have been said today. My overarching comment and thought in listening to people is, where is our county leadership? I've heard all these wonderful stories about years of planning that created the downzoning, the RC district, to protect our water supply, to protect the habitat that remained in the RPA and the flood and the floodplain. What has happened to the county leadership? Are we captured now by home district rule? I don't think that Kathy Smith is the most environmentally sensitive person. I think that she's very pro-business, which is a great thing. But on the other hand, we can't. Once you lose your clean water, where do we go? I live on a well. Somebody upstream from me pollutes my water. I'm thousands of feet from being able to hook in. I'm concerned that decisions such as these major transportation decisions, are not fully discussed by the Board of Supervisors together, that one supervisor seems to rule, and that again, we are not consulted. Why would any of us agree to urbanize these areas that have been specially set aside? I don't understand it. And I think coming from New England, we have lots of rural roads. And even down here, I live on a super rural road. We have a hairpin turn where, I mean, they don't even have to post no trucks. The trucks know. Not all roads should be driven at 40 miles an hour. Why is Braddock Road posted at 40 miles an hour? Let's lower the speed limit. Let's put in rumble strips. We need to put in some solar flashers. We need to, lop off a couple of chunks of rocks. Let's do that. We need to, put in a signal down there and a trip plate. Let's do that. Those are simple things. Those are things that don't have to impact our incredibly sensitive natural systems. Cub Run is one of the major watersheds that feeds the Occoquan. It's one of the major watersheds that feeds the aquifer that underlies all of our wells. And if we turn our backs on our environment, what are we bothering with all this CCAP stuff for? It makes no sense. And so I'm so glad and heartened to hear everybody's logical response and interest in protecting the environment and solving our traffic problems at the same time. And again, whatever is the most direct way to impact the correct decisions here, I know we're all very interested in participating. And have a nice day, everyone. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name's Julia Leggett. This is my mother, the wonderful woman who hosted all of this. And it's been wonderful to hear from all of you about why this is important to you, why this is affecting you. So I want to take the time to tell you what it was like to grow up here. I've had the privilege of living here my whole life. And one of the ways I learned how to climb trees was by going out to that creek and having my brother lift me up from my waist. And the best thing I've learned about is that adventure is everywhere. And I got to learn that by looking out my window and having my siblings take me along the creek and teach me how to cross it without breaking any branches of fallen logs. Or when I got to learn what animals looked like from being out here, I could walk back and they'd say, "Oh, that's a family of foxes." Or, "Hey, we have turkeys this year in the backyard. Isn't that cool?" I got to learn what deer look like, how their different antlers determine their age, how big they are. And when I developed friends in college who were from the UK and had never been anywhere outside of a city, I got to invite them over for Thanksgiving, and I got to share that experience with them about what it was like to grow up here. And now my siblings are a lot older than me, because I'm the youngest. And they're getting married, and they've got kids. And I want to be able to do the same for their kids, the things that they taught me how to do. And if this goes through, when those kids ask me what it was like to adopt one of those turtles and name him Gus and feed him lettuce in the backyard, or what it was like to see turkeys, or what it was like to finally meet a fox in person. I won't be able to say, well, hop on my back and I can show you. I'm losing these potential memories that I can have with the younger generations of my family. And I ask myself, what's it worth? What's so worth it to lose these memories? And the answer is nothing, because it's not going to fix anything permanent. The safety plan's not being followed. Our voices aren't being listened to. And we're losing resources. We're losing animals, plants. It just feels like there is nothing to be gained here and everything to be lost. And if she was listening, Kathy Smith, I would have been able to take her out back like I have with so many other people. And I would have been able to show her why it matters. But it's tough to know that no one's willing to meet you and to listen and to be shown the beauty of everything that's back there. Thank you.
I get on the phone with Noah. We've had, I can't even remember how many conversations, so I just told Dan, I promise I won't be 30 minutes. Thank you all for coming. I don't hope everyone has spoken that wanted to speak. That's why I stepped up here. I didn't see anyone else that wanted to speak. I have a few proxies that were sent to me to read, and so I'll do that now. This proxy is from Jay Johnston. He is the president of the Board of Trustees in Virginia Run, a long time citizen that you all are very familiar with. He's also on the Land Use Committee, right, Jim? Chairman of the Land Use Committee for the Western Fairfax County Citizens Association. So I will share with you his thoughts. Kathleen, thank you for this opportunity to present some thoughts on the current state of Western Fairfax County. Unfortunately, in my mind, the news is not good. I believe that our rural way of life in Western Fairfax County is under attack, due in part to a runaway process and by politicians who care more for their own legacy than the residents of this region. We do not have to watch the environmentally challenged areas overrun and destroyed by temporary improvements to the road network from Loudoun and Prince William counties. There are some that believe we should understand that, quote, progress happens, but just like Arlington did when Fairfax County was developing. This is simply not true. We do not have to stand by and watch every inch of the western regions turned into residential neighborhoods or paved with roads that allow traffic from other regions to flow freely through our Western Fairfax County. Over the last 6 to 9 months, we have seen more aggressive political maneuvering and misguided decisions because of the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Zoning Appeals are hiding behind the current pandemic situation to rush through many of the cases we have seen recently. They have strategically eliminated the voice of the citizenry in holding important decisions, virtually known that citizens are less likely to join the meetings. A recommendation has been made at the Fairfax Board of Supervisors meeting to approve option 3 for the jug handle at Old Lee and modifications to the existing S-curve on Braddock Road, which does not follow the adopted Fairfax County Comprehensive Plan. The plan was altered initially to prevent Braddock Road east of the S-curve from becoming the main thoroughfare from Loudoun County to the I-66 Route 28. Construction of option 3 will change the character of this rural road forever and negatively impact those individual residents along Braddock Road due to the increased volumes of commuter traffic from Loudoun County and points west. We support citizen and neighborhood engagement in local government decisions, including land use and transportation, with the benefit of complete and accurate technical and environmental studies to maximize transparency and accountability of the Board of Supervisors' decisions. There has yet to be a recent public meeting in the affected areas of Western Fairfax County on this matter, where the citizenry is able to express its concerns over these changes. It would appear that the process has allowed an endorsement of a request for $16 million in smart scale funding for option 3 and the jug handle configuration. There have been limited, if any, environmental studies in the Cub Run floodplain or an evaluation of the environmental impact of the disturbance in the floodplain. They plan to take private land in favor of this option, raising the road above the floodplain right where you are standing today. Most alarmingly, the fact that there has been no public hearings recently on the matter that would give affected residents an opportunity to speak out about insurmountable traffic conditions, the destruction of habitat, and the destruction of rural life. I want it understood that as residents of Sully District and Fairfax County, we recognize the paramount importance of the protection of the Occoquan watershed and upholding Fairfax County's environmental policies as expressed in the adopted Fairfax County Comprehensive Plan. We have long supported protection of residential neighborhoods from development impacts, including traffic, stormwater, noise, and other detrimental effects, as well as protecting natural communities, including threatened species, and preserving nearby wildlife habitat of the state, threatened wood turtle, and the largest stand in Virginia of a global rare oak hickory forest. So all that said, what that we are asking for, withdraw the request immediately for the $16 million in smart scale funding from the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. Reconsider the vote by the Board of Supervisors to support option 3 and the jug handle and the S-curve improvements as a solution to Braddock Road and Old Lee traffic. Immediately hold a public hearing permitting citizen testimony and presentations to the board in the government center, being mindful of COVID restrictions before any endorsement of any specific option or any new funding request is made. Conduct an environmental impact study on the Cub Run floodplain and the nearby RC district, including the global rare oak hickory forest and any potentially affected rare and threatened species, with an opportunity for citizen contact and participation. Option 3 is fundamentally flawed and inconsistent with the comprehensive plan for Braddock and Old Lee roads and the adjacent residential area. The process endorsed by the Board of Supervisors failed miserably to protect the residents from the impacts of the Loudoun County commuter traffic. It fails to protect the environment and endangered species. It takes property from Fairfax County residents unnecessarily to appease residents of Loudoun County. Billions were spent building and modifying Route 50 as the primary route for traffic coming east. Another option was presented, which takes the route overland across the dog park and away from the floodplain and the impacted residential areas. This plan should be the plan moving forward, not option 3. I also want to share with you a document. I'll give it to Dave and to Dan, but it was a Sully District Council of Citizens Association. It was a joint Sully District Land Use and Transportation Committee resolution on the Braddock Road operation and safety improvements. This was submitted to the Board of Supervisors, basically making them accountable for their decisions and asking them to withdraw it. I will talk quickly. I do have a few other people that sent in letters. This one is from Daniel Mace. He said, "Good afternoon. I don't have anything positive to say regarding the project, although I appreciate that you all have put substantial work into it. Overall, I hope this project gets ranked the lowest in smart scale because it addresses a minuscule, negligible transportation issue by picking a relatively expensive proposal in terms of engineering and environmental impact, one that likely violates the law and will result in significant and unnecessary damage to the environment. My comments are as follows. Lack of community involvement and input. Both the February meeting and last meeting's Q&A proved that our thoughts and feedback have been just perfunctory formality, and it is pretty apparent that this VDOT project was already planned. I know this email is just another box for you guys to check to establish that you've listened or received feedback and comments, but it has become pretty apparent that the decision makers do not actually care about our thoughts on this project, given that they're almost universally against this project, yet it is going full stream ahead. Environmental impact. VDOT seems to have selected the most environmentally destructive option it could build as much road as it can, as close as it is on top of Cub Run Stream. There is much wildlife in that area that you would be disrupting, including the Chesapeake watershed. It's almost as if you've never actually went to the site and you would build on it. It's on the stream, on private property, I believe, and it poses tremendous engineering and environmental difficulties. It makes no sense that you would select an option before studies would be done. It is completely backwards for you to determine the environmental impact as low, moderate, and then do environmental studies down the road to confirm that. I seriously doubt that this option is better from an environmental perspective than building just a stoplight. I also do not buy into the argument that I also do not buy the argument that there is much environmental impact comparatively to building a road through the dog park, which is what should have been done. The Rock Hill route is a better option in every way. I'm not an engineer, but I've expressed my disbelief at the price tag assigned to the Rock Hill District Park, $70 million. The park is a dog park on a grassland. It is a former farm. There is nothing of environmental significance on there compared to the Cub Run Stream, which is protected by law from construction. I really think you should run your numbers again, because the disparity in cost between a road through Rock Hill District Park versus the options you have selected makes no sense. Everyone prefers the Rock Hill Park because it diverts the traffic away from Fairfax County neighborhoods and does not disrupt the environment and makes more sense from a transportation standpoint. This project solves a problem that does not exist. This project is a waste of money, especially the part of the project of Braddock and Old Lee. It is perplexing how much time and resources VDOT and the local governments plan to devote to a minute transportation problem in a near rural corner of Fairfax County, given how many other traffic and transportation issues there are in this region. Starting with safety, there have only been 2 accidents per year on Braddock Road. This is over an average over a 15-year period. Your accident metrics your accident metrics does not include whether injuries are correct, and there have been no fender benders that have been known of. They are missing in your analysis. Even so, 2 accidents per year is nothing and cannot be a compelling amount to justify a transportation project. I suspect this safety rationale is only a pretext to address the commuting problems of a few disgruntled Loudoun County residents who think Fairfax County neighborhoods are nothing but a thoroughfare for them. As for the traffic problem, it is not significant enough to warrant an improvement. If trucks are the problem on the S-curve, then ban the trucks. But the traffic is not that bad, and when traffic exists, it's for a limited part of the day. Most importantly, since COVID-19, there has been no traffic in this area, even as the pandemic has abated. You should study to see what the traffic and safety going forward before pushing full stream ahead on this project. Less drastic measures. Even assuming there's traffic and safety problems, it seems to make more sense to ban trucks on the S-curve first, build a stoplight at Braddock Road first, and then proceed from there with further analysis. I promise this one is much shorter. This is from Sam Farinacho. Hello, I submitted my comments, so I do not support this project because it does not seem necessary based on the presentation given that the safety issues seem limited to trucks on the S-curve. And the traffic issues have diminished significantly since COVID-19, and it's never been that bad to begin with. I'm not aware of any serious traffic accidents on this road, and the presentation did not detail any injuries or deaths in any of these accidents. Also, the long-term comprehensive plan through the dog park, Rock Hill ? Seems the superior option, given that it would not require interfering with neighborhoods and would actually put the traffic where it needs to go. The park now has nothing on its right but a dog park, and although I've heard it's cost prohibitive, I don't see how it can be truly compared to what you intend to do on Braddock Road and Old Lee. I hope you all are actually listening to what we are saying. I hear from neighbors that this proposal is already a go, which is frustrating given that it does not make any sense to us on many levels. I know this project is in funding still, and I hope that it doesn't happen because it seems like a waste of money that would do nothing but negatively impact the residents of our communities. And now, oh boy, that's it. I get to speak last, and I'm going to be short and sweet. It can be an emotional issue for me. It can also be a very logical, intellectual discussion. I'm going to go logical, intellectual, because you got the emotional one from my daughter. I look at numbers, and I look at value, and I look at cost benefit. And you're telling me you're building a temporary solution, and it's going to be based on data that you collected in 2018. So we're now to 2020. We're using 2018 data, and you've told me this project is only going to be 20 years, good for 20 years. We don't know what's going to happen after 20 years, but after that, it's not fixed. The solution is finished. So now we've already spent 2 years. It goes to the CBT board. It goes into a 6-year plan, funding plan. We wait 6 more years. Now we're up to 8 years. Well, then they have to do the environmental studies. We sit on Cub Run. My daughter and I, she is tired of all my little antics, actually drew out the jug handle using a yellow rope. And I literally killed myself leaning over the guardrail to tape it to prove that I'm not really crazy and that's really not a logical solution. And as we did it, and we measured with our pole and our feet, we discovered that the jug handle, as you go down and then you cross over all the way around, and you have to cue in because you're going to go straight across. You are 20 to 24 inches away from the stream. You are on the bank of the stream, and you are 5 feet below the road. I don't see how it's possible. Are you putting up barriers? Are you putting up cement walls? What are you doing you're destroying it. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like they looked at a Google map. I can't imagine any engineer stood on my property because it just doesn't make sense to me. It's not logical. The S-curve, has been a problem, and I agreed with the comments on slowing down the traffic. I also, in my logical point and not my emotional state, went and consulted with a transportation engineer. And he said to me, Kathleen, you're worried about the junk handle, and that's really bad, but you really need to worry about the S-curve, because they have really underestimated this thing. They've done a concept. They haven't done a design. This is a concept. And because of the elevation difference, they will take land from Pleasant Valley Circle to the S-curve, down the hill, Chanley Farm, Sully Estates entrance, and your land, because they have to create the grade level, and it's too steep. It is far more of an impact that they can even imagine, and they won't even know that until they've already been funded, and then they go and they design it, and then they realize that this isn't going to work. So those are my closing statements, because I don't see it as a logical option, and I don't believe in wasting money. And by the time they've done all the studies and fixed the design, I get a $16 million road and fix for 10 years or less. And then I'll have an empty jug handle, and maybe I can grow rare flowers around it, Jim, maybe, or something in this jug handle that's going to sit here in my yard when they discard it because it doesn't work. That was my emotional comment. How about that? So I thank you for your time, but there are significant fly issues and engineering issues that need to be addressed, and definitely environmental issues. So I thank everyone for your time. I want to pass it back to you guys. I apologize if I spoke too long, but thank you very much. And I truly appreciate your engagement. It is critical for us to be heard. Thank you.
Kathleen, thank you so much for inviting Senator Marsden and I here today, and for hosting. Thank all of you who gave comments today. I know my chief of staff and I know Senator Marsden. We're gonna take all of this input in and collect it. And I know, at least off the bat, that given that I haven't seen the public comments that you've all put into VDOT, despite asking, we are going to capture and collect these and make sure they are memorialized in a formal way to VDOT and begin the process. This is a process. You have taken a major first step. I appreciated the opportunity to hear from all of you, and look forward to sharing those comments and then working with you going forward so we do get a solution that protects our environment, protects our community, and addresses some of the safety and traffic concerns that we're looking after. So thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you. That was very informative and very helpful. Here's, let me just first say something about VDOT. They're not in the land use business. You know, that's up to localities. Their job is to move traffic. And my job is to make sure that VDOT is giving due diligence to what they're doing. And I am new, I'll be honest with you, I am new to power in the General Assembly. I spent most of my career in the General Assembly being in the minority party in the House of Delegates, and most of the time in the state Senate. Here's a few things that occur to me. First off, Delegate Helmer and myself need to go over to VDOT, sit down with their leadership, and walk through this project and make sure we understand all the alternatives that there are. What concerns me more about this project than the one I was engaged in before at the traffic circle, I know there are a few plants at risk there and they tried to make some adjustments, but streams are serious business. And I sit on the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, and on Senate Finance I chair the Economic Development and Natural Resources Committee that makes recommendations to the full committee. I'm concerned with the notion that we are putting that stream in jeopardy. I think that might be one avenue of approach, that perhaps there is language that could be inserted into the budget next year that would take into consideration those kinds of things in a specific part of Fairfax County, or excuse me, a specific part of the Commonwealth that we can do. I'm not sure whether that will pass muster, whether I can get it through. You know, at the end of the day, I'm just one vote on that committee. But I think it is worth taking a look at that, because I think it is probably your best argument is the environmental one, as I listen to what you're going through here today. The S-curve is dangerous. VDOT has to be concerned about folks in Loudoun County. I'm sorry, but they do. That's their mission. And we don't have direct control over that, but I do chair the committee that deals with a lot of their business. And so we can sit down and have a very, very frank conversation about alternatives. I have had some success before in doing that. Are y'all familiar with where Burke Center crosses 123, Burke Center Parkway crosses 123 and dead ends at the Parkway? They were going to eliminate that light and just put in a right-hand turn kind of thing, and people would have to go further south on when trying to return home in the evening, would have to go further south and get on 123 to get to Burke Center. It would have overloaded small roads and what have you. And we kept at them, And they came up with a solution. They found it in North Carolina. And what we're going to see at that particular intersection is in the morning, there'll be a short period of time where people can make that left-hand turn onto the Burke Center Parkway. And in the evening, especially, it will allow for a period of time. The rest of the time, it will flow freely, especially in the morning rush hour. So there are things that we can do here. This planning process is hopefully not so far along that we can't deal with it and make sure. So we want to have that meeting with the two of us, with them, to get this, to see what's really going on. Secondly, we need to do this with VDOT, perhaps here, perhaps someplace else where it can be done safely. No more Zoom. You need to be able to deal directly with VDOT. What they will do is they'll set up their presentation boards that you can, go through and really see things, and feel better about the transparency, and feel better that you understand what they're doing, why they're suggesting it, and start looking at the alternatives. The last thing again is to see what we can do in the legislature to make sure that certain things have to happen before the normal county and state processes go into place. That is something I'll have to explore. I'll be honest with you, I'm new to being in a position of having a little more control than I have in the past. And so I'll sit down with staff down in Richmond and look and find other instances where we've been able to exercise influence that perhaps, one might not be able to do when one is in the minority party. And so I want to look at all the alternatives here and what have you. This is a problem, does need to be fixed. Let's find a way to fix it that impacts this community in the least way possible, and directs traffic as to where it needs to go. I'm going to find out about that park, and we will be in a situation where Delegate Helmer and myself can sit down with Kathy Smith, sit down with our Board of Supervisors members, and hammer out something that'll work better for everybody. Nothing is ever perfect. Solutions are never perfect. With the, I'm sure that the circle still creates a few problems upstream, but I thought it was a better solution than some of the others that I saw. But let's go in. Let's find out what's going on. This is still the first quarter of this game, and let's see what we can do. And thank you all for being here.
Senator, I'm going to talk to you, but I'm really talking to them. One of the statements I want to make is that accidents did decrease when we had this supposed truck ban. What I'm upset about, I think all of you have commented about, is the signage just doesn't say prohibit. It says encouraged not to or suggested not to. There needs to be a truck ban. I mean, the Pepsi people were navigating the curve 2 days ago. I'm like, they know not to be on there. But the signage doesn't say, no, you can't do it. The signage is suggestive, and I think the signage needs to change. That was just my comment.